Thanks for joining us here at Olds Performance and Machine. This is that 496, which we're correcting many of the items on it. You guys want to know what's going on here. Got a little bit of a dilemma here. And I'm just warning you guys out there, if anybody has one of these blocks, whereas it's machined out in here, you might want to take a look at that. Here's the problem. This is fine. So this is the encased needle bearing that we use. It's 141 thousandths thick. Okay. So what that Oldsmobile specialist did was he bored this out. Okay, so that's the right intentions, but it left two problems here. One is that this area right here is extremely narrow, much narrower than the bearing itself. So therefore, the area that grabs it doesn't really have enough crush or surface area. So either you got to narrow the bearing, but he doesn't. He lets the bearing actually hang out quite a bit. Makes it maybe a little flush back here, but it's hanging out. Okay, that's fine. The problem is this. This side faces the back of the camshaft. This side faces the block. This is meant to turn with the camshaft flange. The bearing, OD, and it sticks out of the block, and this is supposed to come around it. The bearing OD is larger than the ID, slightly, but still it causes interference. It's an issue. This center is supposed to be turning, but when the bearing locks into it, it won't turn. Okay, and this is fixtured, the OD of it, this side, is fixtured perfectly, so it's got a little bit of crush. As you can see, I'm pushing it in here. So with the bearing hanging out, being that the OD of the bearing is bigger, it locks this surface up. That's a major issue. And it had this issue. And I'm assuming everybody, well, I don't know how many guys you are out there that have this modification board in here. It's wrong. It wasn't thought out properly. It's a nightmare. It's just metal to metal. If this isn't turning, because the bearing is running contact in here, because the bearing is larger, if it's not turning, it's wearing metal to metal. And that's what's going on here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a spacer that's going to take up the material that he removed out of here. And that spacer will be exactly the thickness of this bearing, 141. I'm going to set it in with two small 82-degree countersinks in there. Okay, and what we do is we take it off the backside of the flange of the camshaft, creating a step. There's instructions with our camshaft as far as how to do that. This way you don't have any of this garbage going on with not enough surface area to hold the cam bearing in place. So take a look at that. If you got one of these blocks where your machinist bored this thing out like that, down 141 thousandths to accommodate this bearing, it's nonsense. Wasn't thought out properly. And you have some interference going on in this, because once it's pushed back and locked into place, it's going to be metal to metal, because that inner race is not turning. The OD of the first cam bearing is larger than the ID here. We measure these all the time when we cut the camshafts. It's 2.129, 2.128. The exact area on the ID. This is larger than that. It's the #1 cam bearing. Take a look, guys. See what you got. If you have any questions or concerns, just give us a call. 1-800-382-1320. Check us out on Facebook at Olds Performance and Machine. This is the continuation of this 496 disaster. Thanks for joining us.